Shit like
These
that
are all
can
for you,
happen.
Tony. So you see
Update
what
their
I mean.
drivers.
Are they key? What?
It was weird that it did that. I haven't had that problem before.
Oh my god.
But it looks like we're good.
Oh my god.
That's right. Oh, you're God. Here's
Wait.
some sweetness with Gary Oldman.
Wait.
Mmm.
Oh, he looks so. God, he looks like me when I was a kid. I swear to God, like I had blonde hair, just like that, comb that same way.
All right, everyone can hear us.
It's red hair.
That's weird.
He's
So
blonde.
I don't fucking
In the
care about
pictures I'm
Sir
sending
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh,
I'm not
start the podcast already. Fuck.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'd be more inclined to do Gary Oldman than Benedict Cumberbatch. No offense to Benedict, but Gary Oldman is a fucking genius and a legend.
I have to back Scanner on this one. Gary Oldman, greater than Benedict Cumberbatch.
I
10 out of
would
10.
I would be BFFs with Gary Oldman, but I would fuck Benedict Cumberbatch.
I would worship Gary Oldman. If he asked me to wear a fucking saddle and do weird shit, like sure thing, bro.
Do you know how
Yep,
many
no
people
problem.
don't realize he was in The Fifth Element? It's
People
like,
don't
yeah.
realize he's in anything because
Yeah.
he changes his entire physical being from movie to movie somehow.
he
It
does.
really does.
It's
Yeah.
fucking terrifying. He can he's a complete George Clooney is George Clooney in another movie.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman is a fucking chameleon.
I didn't know who he was. Like I recognized the actor, but I didn't know his name until I think it was like the Batman series. And then once I figured that out and I was looking back to his other body work, I was like, holy crap, he's done a lot of different characters.
This is interesting.
Oh, I gotta
Fucking Chris,
Why
he's
am
in
I
the
off
chat.
center? How do I fix this?
No.
All right, this is interesting. I can't see how many viewers there are or anything. My stream didn't, like my browser didn't update. Oh well, not a big deal. All right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Game Speak podcast. Thank you for joining us as usual. Today is what is today? November 24th. It is Thanksgiving week, so. For all of you people in the U.S. that are getting ready to get on the road this week for Thanksgiving, just a premature safe travels to all of you. I love Turkey Day. I'm embracing all the fat jokes now, and I'm waiting to hear Scanner. Turkey Day is my favorite time of the year because you just get to gorge yourself on all this wonderful food.
I'm thankful for Snoove being fat
Everyone's thankful for Snoop
Oh
being fat.
wow.
and me subsequently being entertained.
If I don't see Squantoon in the chat and giving me fat jokes, I'm actually gonna be severely disappointed.
He'll be around. He can smell the opportunity.
All right, so as usual, we'll go through a quick round of introductions. Obviously, it's me, Snoop603. I'm the guy behind Shustybang. Used to be myself and Fake Filler, that chump that's in the chat. But he was like, nah, I hate you, and he left. That's the true story, guys. We have Scanner Barkley, the dickhead from Ireland. We have White Out the Tiger, that chump from the West Coast. And we have Epona, and I will say nothing but nice things to her because she does all the behind-the-scenes things for Dawnbreaker Gaming. And if I mouth off to her, she'll probably crash the site and just laugh in a very maniacal manner. For those of you that are showing up to this podcast for the first time, thank you very much for showing up. We appreciate it. You guys are hopefully in for a treat for the night. If you're wondering where we get the topics from, if you go to dawnbreakergaming.com, and I'm sure Epona is going to throw the link up there in the chat for me because she's always great about that. Down in the forums, there is a podcast sub-forum, and in there, we create a new thread every single week where you guys, the community, gets to create pick the topics that we discuss every single week. If we don't get to it, we hold on to it. Everything's on its own Google Docs. We can refer to it while we're doing the podcast, and everything rolls over. And if we can get to it the next week, cool. And if it's something we just don't have anything to say on, don't feel bad about it. It's not a big deal. It's just we can't, obviously we're not going to have something to say about everything, and some things are just going to slip through the cracks. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. And we're going to go with some of the freshies. We'll start with the fresh topics first, and then we'll jump into any leftovers from last week. Let's see. The first one. It's from Ricky Pierce. I thought this was going to be a Krollman button, but this is Ricky Pierce. And his question was, is virtual reality the future of gaming? What other paths can you see gaming going down? Or is virtual reality a bad idea and will it fail? This is one of the few topics all four of us had written notes down for. So I'm going to turn it over to someone else so I can go ahead and update the on-screen topic and stuff. Who would like to jump off regarding virtual reality for gaming?
Jess, go.
Well, I have never tried virtual reality, and I completely despised the motion control trend of last gen. So I kind of have mixed feelings about whether it's good or bad. I feel like it could certainly be its own like niche or genre of gaming. I feel like it's more suited to certain types of games, and there's a lot of potential there. But I don't really have enough experience or knowledge to really say either way whether I think it'll be good or bad.
Really?
That's
Someone
the
else jump
opportunity
right
for
in.
someone else to jump in who does know what they want to say.
All right, I'll jump in. I've always got an opinion.
Oh shit.
VR isn't gonna set like from a tech point of view, and everybody like standing around going ooh and ah. It's gonna set the world on fire in gaming, but it's never gonna gain a major foothold at any point over the next number of years against normal, sitting in front of your screen and playing. Gaming and VR is a very small aspect of what VR actually has to offer and will be picked up on. Facebook did not spend money on Oculus so that we all get to game in virtual reality. They spent money on Oculus because of the massive application of VR across a huge amount of industries. Like entertainment, yes, but I was saying earlier, stuff like education, especially medical, military, engineering, design. There's a huge application for VR that's going to be very lucrative, far beyond the meager earnings that can be made from selling headsets to gamers. It's a small aspect of it.
Yeah. I think
You
That's-
know what?
Like
I-
I'm not flat out like dismissing VR within gaming. Of course, it's gonna have an impact and people are gonna like it and all. But have you ever watched somebody else play when they're in VR? It looks nasty to try and watch it when like when you're talking at any given moment, your head is actually like moving and darting around all over the place, but like your eyes and your ears and your brain all compensate. So as far as you're concerned, what you're seeing is smooth. But when you're playing in VR and you're recording your gameplay or showing your gameplay to somebody else, it's actually like darting around everywhere, and it's very jarring and horrible experience to watch. So VR is gonna, it's a step forward for gaming in that, yeah, it's virtual reality and shit, but it's a step backwards to where gaming has come from, and that it's going to be almost completely non-social in the way that gaming is social now. And that's like VR is already coming to market with hurdles, and it's not about VR arriving, it's about how VR overcomes the hurdles that are inherent in its design.
Yeah. I think it'll work to a certain extent. It's going to be one of those, kind of niche things where it's certainly not going to take over and be, the go-to gaming experience for the majority of gamers, not by a long shot, unless the overall quality of the technology is insane and then the price is really low. It's just not going to happen, and that's fine. But it'll still catch hold in some aspect of the gaming industry and the gaming market. I think will have a sustainable customer base. But yeah, like I said, it's just gonna be a niche thing where it'll work, and variety is good in the gaming industry, and it'll provide more variety to get whatever gaming experience you're looking for. But I think that's going to be the extent of it. Again, unless we see incredibly exceptional quality at a ridiculously low price.
Well, I was gonna say what I saw a news article recently, and actually it was a accompanying news video of what Scanner was talking about as far as like using virtual reality for medicine. Like these guys were doing plastic surgery in California and doing it on a person in New York. And I thought it was kind of interesting. The guy had like a whole headset on and these little finger things he's going on. But from a gaming standpoint, from iRacing and from a racing standpoint, like the Oculus Rift, the DK2 is very, very popular. Like everyone is raving about the immersive quality of the Oculus Rift, and so like I understand what Scanner's saying. It just sort of contradicts the multiplayer aspect of gaming, But for
I never said anything about multiplayer. I said social.
Oh, sorry, the social aspect. Excuse me. So the social
Big
aspect.
difference tone.
Yeah, my bad, my bad. But when we think now about gaming, I don't think we think of like LAN parties anymore. But from like I said, from a racing standpoint, it is like the newest, hottest thing because no longer do you have to have your triple to 5 monitor setup. You could just have the Oculus Rift on, and where you look is where you're looking like as if you're in the car. So it's very, very popular, like I said, in the racing community.
Like, it is cool tech. I just don't see it having massive impact beyond people who are interested in cool tech.
I think you
Like,
guys
it's
are.
not-
I think
it's-
you're right, though. It's like it's definitely
Yeah.
a niche thing, like you said.
Yeah. Like, it would be like I would happily buy a VR headset if the thought of VR didn't make me queasy. Like, just
Yeah.
I
it's
like
not
how you
something
say
I'd
it.
be. It's not something I'd be able to utilize personally, but like from an interest level, I'd be hugely interested in. But from an actuality level, it would be an instant regret purchase. Why did I get this?
I have heard people getting motion sick off that thing after a couple minutes.
That's what Billy just said.
Yeah, I just saw that too. This other dude on the iRacing Reddit was talking about it. Took him like a few days to get used to it, but now he's used to it. He ran like a 2-hour race without any problems. So I don't know, maybe it's just something you have to get used to. But for me, I think it would probably make me a little sick to my stomach, make me not want to try it again.
I can imagine like a survival horror game with the Oculus being particularly spooky.
Yeah.
Like that would be real like nervy shit. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
normally be about survival games. I don't, or like survival horror games specifically. I don't like jump scares. Don't really get me. But like if you were wearing the Oculus, that'd be scary as shit. Like you turn around and you see some kind of monster's foot, and you're like, "Fuck!"
Well, what about like what I put in the notes? What about like that Battlefield simulator? Now that was ridiculous because I think that thing cost like $500,000 to make.
You're talking.
But could you make?
So everyone knows what you're talking about. You're talking about the one where they did like a three.
It was a British gadget show where they built a 360-degree Battlefield 3 simulator. So it was a
Right.
walking treadmill. The guy could walk in every direction possible. It used Microsoft's the hell is there? Is it Kinect?
Yeah, the
Microsoft
Kinect
Kinect
cameras.
system to read the guy's body. There were paintball guns that were shooting at him to simulate enemy fire, and his body became the controller because of the Kinect system. So, do you think because I think when everyone thinks of VR, they want to think of Star Trek's Ready Room, or not Ready Room, but the
Oh,
holodeck.
the holodeck. Shit,
Yeah, so I think that's what everyone expects for VR, and we're of course taking it from just a visual standpoint. But do you think like in the fantasy world, do you think like a holodeck would be like a gaming holodeck would be cool? Would you like get into that?
Yeah, it'd be cool right up
found
until people realize, oh shit, I actually have to move.
You think like
know what I
gamers are too lazy?
Yeah, it's like, oh, you come home from work and you're tired after a long day, and you're like, I'm gonna have me a game of Far Cry 17, and you jump on the holodeck and you start climbing up a hill, and you're like, why the fuck did I even buy this thing? You
Yeah.
go out, you load up your Xbox 11, and just fucking blast away. Gaming is a lazy man's sport, and this is always to be remembered.
This is true.
That's kind of true, yeah.
I actually found that video you were talking about, Tony. I was able to throw it up in the chat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think I left it in. Did I put it? No, I forgot to put it in the notes. My bad.
It's all right. It was like a 17-minute video, but yeah, the thing was insane.
Yeah.
It was a weird kind of treadmill. Like you said, it was a 360-degree treadmill, but in the center was just like a stationary pad. So anytime you weren't walking or moving or whatever, you could come back up to center, and when you stopped moving, your character in game stopped moving. And when you
Yeah.
got shot, they actually had paintball guns set up all around you too. So when you got shot in game, you actually got fucking pelted with paintballs.
Ow.
That thing.
I would do that up until the paintball. I think I'd leave the paintball guns out of the
Nah,
equation.
fuck that. You gotta go for the whole thing.
No way, dude.
Paintballs
Dude.
fucking hurt, man.
Yes, they
I
do.
know. That's what I'm saying.
Snoop, by the end of a night's
Oh.
game, you'd be one fucking welt with legs.
I know.
That would be it.
I've been paintballing once, and this is I'm gonna tell the story because it's embarrassing, but my god, is it funny? So this is actually for Fake Thriller's bachelor party. Myself and our other mutual friend Alex were trying to set up this thing for his bachelor party, and we are like, dude, we should totally do like paintballing. We should mix that in the day somehow. So the whole time we were planning this, I was like, should I get a cup? Like, I hear people get shot fucking everywhere. Should I get a cup? Because I really don't want to get shot in the dick. And they're both like, nah, stop being a pussy about it. I was like, fine, I will get one. Like, we were even at the store, and I had the thing in my hand. I was like, and I put it down. I was like, nah, I'll be fine. It was like ridiculously humid. It was kind of like late summer, early fall, and no one could see anything out of these shitty rented goggles because the condensation was building up so fucking bad. And lo and behold, as we're like nearing the base to try and capture the flag, Chris was on my team, our friend Alex is on the other team. I come around the corner, I scare the shit out of Alex because he's camping the goddamn flag, and he like just turns around and like snap fires, and he shot me right in the dick, like right in the shaft. I crumbled like a fucking sack of bricks, dude. I was in so much pain.
He fucking no-scoped you right in the nuts, dude.
Really did.
That's harsh.
Oh, so yeah, no, trust me, I know how much it hurts.
Wow.
That was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through. Oh, all right. Does anyone else have anything else to add regarding the VR? No,
I don't think
nothing.
so.
All right, this next topic is going to be a little difficult because this one's from Krollman, and I'm not going to lie, I'm having trouble trying to figure out where this question begins and where it ends.
Oh, no shit, yeah.
Jess, I know you were looking through it, and I see you've kind of got it broken up between the top part where it says do timed exclusives, etc., and then you've got some purple text down there, a line break, and then it starts off again with like the movie industry. Are those two separate thoughts? Because you had broken that up.
Yes.
Okay.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 different questions. It's not all one question.
Okay, so the part where it says like the movie industry, and then down the next page, what are games? Are those two separate thoughts?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the what
as
are
far
games
as
part.
I can tell.
All right, so again, this was from Krollman. It says, what are games? Tech, art, single player is all about telling a story, so that has an easy answer, but what about multiplayer? What form of medium do you obtain of it? Games have been defined as interactive stories. When you criticize an artist-director, the artist-director won't change the piece movie, at least not normally, but games are different in this day and age of the internet. They are able to change this with ease. From changing a few values, it can change the whole gameplay. For example, a balance change will change playstyles. Are games living art? Where is it not the devs define it, but the players? Krollman, I love you, man. You've been really supportive, but reading that gave me cancer.
Structure
do you
your
think I feel?
question.
It does. It just needs next time when you go through it, Krollman. My mind has no flow. That's good. Just take a little more time with it. I didn't get a chance to add anything to this, but I see you guys did, and it looks like Tony had the most to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony, if you want to jump off of it, go right ahead. So again, I can update the stream as we go here.
Well, you know what? So I started out my notes thinking about the art community. Now, I don't know if any one of us are actually a part of the art community, and so if you are, let me know, because I'm going to generalize really badly about this snobbish art community. But like in an art community, when you look at a piece of art, you generally like look at it and you either love it, you're like, oh my god, this is a great example of postmodern art, or you just fucking hate it. Or you look at classical work, you love it or hate it. But the art community in general doesn't go around and say like, okay, well, I see your painting, and here's how we're all gonna make it better. So change this, this, and this about it. So, in my opinion, video games can't be artwork because the community is so vocal about what's wrong with their games. So, if the gaming community was an art community, they would be the shittiest art community ever. Like the example I use is Mass Effect 3, right? So Mass Effect 3, the game came out, and then the community absolutely fucking hated the ending. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that your choices didn't really matter. You were essentially left with 2 choices, and all the choices you had made up to Mass Effect 3, so from Mass Effect 1 all the way to Mass Effect 3, your choices had really no impact on the end of the game. And when I played it through the first time, I took it as like, that's the ending that the developers, the people who created the story, wanted to have. So although I can understand and sympathize with my fellow gamer, I also understand that that's the story that they wanted to tell. But then again, there was such a vocal outcry that what I believe is they changed the ending a little bit. And it was a couple of years before I played it over again. So when I played it over again, I totally forgot like what the ending was like and what changes were made. So, in the comments, let me know if you remember specifically what the changes were made. But that's the way I see it. I just see it as like this it can't be art because the community is so vocal. Also, like, I just see it as entertainment, like movies, because you can easily compare the first person or the single player campaign to like a movie, except for it's a very active experience. You're not just passively watching the movie. You're actually participating. You are the main protagonist. So, for me, video games aren't art. Video games are definitely just interactive entertainment, like a movie. So, that's where I see games.
So you don't think movies are art?
I think like what I'd mentioned in our notes is I think that there are artistic movies, but those make up a very, very small percentage of the films that are put out every year. You can't say like every movie is a piece of
Guardians
art.
of the Galaxy. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Here,
No
right?
You
spoilers.
just watched it, yeah.
I still haven't
No.
seen it yet, and that pisses me off.
So
but-
good.
That's fucking stupid. I had to wait for it to come out on fucking Blu-ray because I can't leave my house. I've seen it before.
Yeah, it hasn't
Or
come out
you
here yet.
suck.
I don't even think it's been announced yet for the US, has it?
Not yet,
You
no.
December 9th, I think.
Interesting.
You suck.
I'm just gonna go buy it. I've heard too many good things not to just flat out buy the damn
So
thing.
good. Just buy it.
Oh, buy it, yeah.
Anywhere like okay, I'm gonna strongly disagree with Tony due to how I personally feel about art. Plus, I can't dare contradict myself because I've actually done videos talking about the concept of games as art as well, and I concluded that games are actually art. But I don't think that something stops being art because of broad appeal. I don't think that something stops being art because of poor reception. And I don't think that something stops being art because it's malleable beyond the point of the end of its perceived creation. I don't think stuff stops being art. Like, there's emotional content, there's musical content, there's the written word involved, there's visuals involved. Yes, there's a huge amount of tech, and you need an active participant in the player for any of it to even matter. But all art needs an active participant. Like, all art needs a listener or a viewer or an audience. So, for me, you can give art a very broad definition, not because lots of people argue about what art is, but just because it's almost impossible to correctly argue against what art might not be. So games are art. For me, personally, that's the way I'm. They're a different form of art, but they're still art. I would say.
I would agree that they are art.
I also agree. It's
Boom!
it's kind of
Boom!
and it's subjective. Like, it's one of those. Like, I don't think anyone's
Highly, yeah.
technically right or wrong regarding it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But and that's fine. It's kind of one of those, like, I feel like when the question comes up is, are games art? It, to me, it kind of falls along the same lines of, are you a real gamer or are you not? Like a hardcore gamer, or are you like some fucking filthy casual that just plays mobile games? They kind of go along the same lines to me in that, like, I just don't think it matters in the end. It all comes down to how you personally value it. And, like, me personally, I can see that there is art or an artistic value behind video games. But then I look at some of the, quote-unquote modern art, and I think, like, dude, that's literally, like, just trash on the wall. That's fucking paint splatter. I don't see that as art. But it's
Jackson
all in
Pollock.
the eye of the beholder. So, there's my jumble of thoughts regarding the matter.
You can also, like, place one of the most important emphases on whether something should be considered art or not is whether it's actually evoking an emotional response in the people who are witnessing it. And it's almost impossible to deny that nearly anything can evoke an emotional response. And it's like, you can't sit there and go, like, some games are art, like maybe like Don't Starve that's quite arty. Or something like Gone Home, extremely artistic. Or Papers, Please, which is like an almost masterful cultural study within a very small framework of mechanics. Call of Duty, as dumb and stupid and drenched in fucking Mountain Dew as it is, could still elicit a very strong emotional response in somebody who's actually playing that game. You've got some kid who's at home and his brother's on deployment and he's playing this game and it's hitting him hard, harder than we can comprehend because we don't share his personal circumstances. So it doesn't seem right to me to turn to that kid and go, that thing that made you feel connected for even a second to the plight of your brother and his friends has no artistic value. Fuck you, kid. That just seems like a pretty rough route to walk down with regards to art. That's my take.
I guess I have just a more of a firm definition of what I believe art is than
You believe art
like,
is naked ladies.
yeah. Leonard
It
Nimoy
is, though.
creating. Well, Leonard Nimoy is creating fantastic art. Then.
Oh God, yeah. William Shatner made a lot of art back in his day too.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess like I can understand the relevance of your approach. It just that just means that every single thing that is created visually, or auditorily, like music and rap, like everything is art. Then like there's nothing that's not art. It's so encompassing, so broad.
Yeah, now you've got my base of operations.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like everything in the world, even the most ridiculous advertisement has an artistic element to it. So I guess when I just look at it sort of as its packaged product, I've just always had a very clear sort of a delineation from what high. I guess it's a matter of high art and low art kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess video games would be considered like low art, to whoever loves high art.
Yeah.
Or
definitely.
so looking at the comments, like when you guys mentioned trash or paint splatter, to me is not art. Like that's like anybody could do that. But then again, those people that are participating and doing modern art, like that's their form of expression, I guess.
Here's the way I've always felt quite strongly about this and I oftentimes will disagree with myself upon expressing it instantly and then argue with myself in my head. But art that you need to go out of your way to explain so that somebody gets a meaning from it, that's the art that I always struggle to deal with. Like personally. Like the Jackson Pollocks, the paint splashes on the wall. He could be experiencing some great emotional torment while he's splashing that paint against the wall. But if it doesn't come across to me, and it's no disrespect to him or artists of his style, if there's that disconnect, his art to me has no value because it's evoking no emotional response in me. It's that same thing of, for me, everything would hinge on an emotional response from me. I can only assign, like, art is just a name. That's just a word. It's like saying, is a banana food? Yeah, of course it's fucking food. But some people will and won't rate it as food, and they might like it or they might dislike it, and it might have, like, good things and bad things against it as food. That's all the word art is. It's just a word. It doesn't. If I tell anybody that something is art, they are under no obligation to value it just because they have been told it is art. That's something that the art world forgets all the time. Like, they can sit there and they can say that X new talent has amazing ability, but nobody actually needs to care, and nobody needs to agree with them. It's not like there's no council of wise elders with like giant fucking paintbrushes and shit like staves going, this is art, yeah, and we all go, okay, thanks guys. That's why art is fun.
Thanks for that clear definition of what art is. That's the way I feel what you're saying about poetry. A lot of poetry I just don't get, and some people consider it art. I just consider it confusing.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can appreciate the effort that somebody went into to write it.
Oh yeah.
But that, like, you don't have to care. Like, they come and put their entire life sort of feelings into this poem. You don't have to give a shit. You're the audience. You decide what's right for you.
Yeah. So the other part of that question that I noticed now has disappeared is, what about multiplayer? What do we think? Where does that sit in?
Jess is formatting on the fly.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
she is.
fucking. That's art.
I gotta back up to find it. 'Cause
Well, but like, how would you define it? Because like, I defined it very loosely as a sport. Now I'm gonna have to, quotation marks here, sport, because
He's
it
the old
reminds me.
esport.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a pickup game of football, or basketball or whatever. It's just something you do, but it requires, more than 5 people. So I don't know. It just seems like it could be classified as a sport.
Or a social experiment. It's like getting a bunch of fucking idiots with a set like objective and a set defined way that the universe in which they will exist for the next 10 to 15 minutes functions, and then watching what they do. Like, multiplayer stuff is harder to it's harder maybe to argue for the art in it, for me personally, because it's more. I'd be with Tony. It does feel like more of a sport. There's an end game. There's something to be achieved, and people will want to achieve it.
Yeah.
I want to elaborate on this topic, but when it comes to art, like I don't know what to say. Like I view it so differently because I'm not wired that way internally. Like it's not that I hate art. That is not it when I say this. I just give fuck all when it comes to art for the most part. I'm just not wired that way. I've got more of a technical machinist kind of brain. So when I see art, it just makes my head hurt in a way that, like, it kind of like that, just really dumb, like, I don't get it kind of way. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I mean, there's some things I can look at and be like, yeah, I appreciate that in different avenues, but my level of indifference is just too high when it comes to art. So the only thing I can think of is,
you just said you thought video games is art. Like,
yeah,
right
that's
before...
the extent of how far I would go in art. Like, I can only think of it in respects to how it relates to my interests, and I understand kind of the concept of what people define art as, and how it's just how I view it as this really broad topic. It's not so much something that's really defined. I view art as an extension of people's personalities, and that's why it's so subjective, and that's why it's so multifaceted and has such depth, because people have depth. Most people at any rate. And that's why it's got such range for what some people see as high class or low class art, technical versus simple, stupid versus amazing. It's such a broad topic that really does impact a lot of people in different ways, whether they realize it or not. It's too big for me. I won't lie. It's just way too big for me to even try and encompass into any thoughts. Because I'm just, like I said, I'm not wired that way to even think like that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're appreciating the artistic aspects of video game then.
Yeah. Well, you've got an engineer's mind. So what about like architecture? Would you consider the art in certain architectural endeavors?
Yeah, and so far as that looks nice and...
Yeah, like beyond the need for mere structure.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that. And I do see it, and I do compliment on it from time to time. Case in point, our town wants to build this new library, and it looks ugly as fuck because it looks like a prison. When they're trying to make it look, they're trying to keep in mind, I'm from New Hampshire. Like, this is fucking colonial America. That, there's a lot of old school Victorian kind of style homes and a lot of colonial style because it's fucking some of the oldest parts of the country. I mean, my house that we moved into when we first moved to New Hampshire with my family was 200 years old. And so, yeah, in that respect, they're like, hey, we want to build this new building. I'm like, that doesn't fit in at all with the fucking surrounding landscape, and it's ugly as sin. So, yes, from that standpoint, yeah, I can appreciate art from that aspect.
This turned into a really strange conversation.
It did. And you know what? And now it's kind of getting, we've derailed ourselves, and I think at this point it's probably a good time to move on to another topic. Jess is getting mad. She's like, guys, I don't know what to say. I have nothing to say. It's not that
I did not say that.
No,
I
no,
said
no,
I'm
no,
falling asleep.
I'm
No
sorry.
offense.
You're right.
Oh.
It's fine. All right, so like I said, this actually goes back to my point that I made just a couple minutes ago. Art is such a huge, broad topic that, I mean, we could spend the next 3 hours trying to discuss it. And again, it's not like anyone's really wrong per se. It's just a matter of different perspectives, and that's because I feel like art is just an extension of everyone's personalities, and that just gives it such broad range that it's impossible to kind of nail down into a short conversation. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Taking a philosophy 101.
Yeah. All right.
All
So,
right. New topic before we all fucking just pass out.
okay, we'll go on to this one from Adam Drew, and this looks like a good one because Skinner and Jess wrote a book on it. So guys, bear with me because I'm trying to read all these topics word for word, and this guy wrote a book. It's a good thing though, because this gives us a lot of context to work with when you guys drop these kind of topics in the topic thread. So, from Adam Drew. With GTA 5 being re-released soon, it got me thinking as to how Rockstar do their business compared to other companies. Rockstar spent years creating a game that will be a masterpiece. They create tremendous hype and end up getting a ton of money. So both company and consumers walk away happy. Everyone loves them. On the other hand, Activision and Ubisoft spend 1 year making COD or Assassin's Creed. Not much is done to change the formula, and probably a lot less money is put into the games compared to what Rockstar puts in. They create some hype, but nowhere near what there is for GTA, for example. Then they release their game and make a shit ton of money every year. People play the game, and some love it, but others hate it and complain about how it hasn't changed, but will still buy it every year. Looking at this from a business angle, is the time, money, and effort that Rockstar put into their games worth it? I think that's the very first question after you start in his background. Rockstar make a ton of money every 4 to 5 years, but have high production, marketing costs, and people love them. Activision Ubisoft make slightly less money, but make it every year compared to 5, have less production marketing costs, and don't need people to like them to sell games. So what are our views on this? Does this have a negative effect on how companies create their games? Is the problem all in my head? Is there anything that can be done to increase the quality of what we pay for? I find that at the moment there isn't much done to reward good quality games, as there are a lot of bad / below par games that still make a lot of money. Like I said, it's a book, but he does have some excellent points to back up his questions. So, Scanner, you have a book yourself to follow.
Wait. Can I start? Because
yes,
mine
you're
is
right,
like simple-minded, and Scanner's is like, let's dive deep into this ocean of shit.
Yeah.
Because I got some thoughts.
Do it.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I went to look it up because he was saying how GTA comes out like every 4 or 5 years, and I was like, time out. I don't feel like that happens. So there's actually 14 GTA titles on non-handheld platforms, and most of them have only like a year or two between them. And most of them were by the same studio consecutively, which was Rockstar North. So like, there was one in 97, 99, there was 3 of them, 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2009 had 3 games, and then 2013 we had GTA 5. So, from 2009 to 2013 was actually the longest break we had in releases. So I don't know if the 4 or 5 years is accurate to point out. So just putting that out there in comparison to what Activision is doing with Call of Duty. Also, the Rage engine that they're using, which I'm sure they modified a little bit, but it's still the same engine. They developed that, came out with it in 2006. So I wouldn't really call what they're doing like reworking it, innovating, creating a masterpiece every time, because they're using a 6, 7, 8-year-old engine on these next-gen consoles. But what they have going for them, I think, is the difference between, you know, a Call of Duty and a GTA is the open world focus, because you're kind of making your own story, whereas in Call of Duty you just have that one campaign where you're going, and then they kind of rely on multiplayer. So this GTA releases, they come out, they're solid, they're not buggy, but there's not an emphasis on story, and they look nice. They're not necessarily these brilliant, game-changing, unique pieces of art, but arguably it's been relatively the same since San Andreas, as far as I, understand it or know it. They're not really taking risks. They're kind of just tweaking it a little bit every time and putting it out. Like with GTA 5, they have the three character narrative and the heist system, which, heists, if I remember correctly from playing it on PS3, they're kind of few and far in between. And then adding the two characters wasn't really risky. They just added two more macho, psycho, thug guys to the game. Not that that's a bad thing. It was nice to have, different characters with different viewpoints. But I just think that GTA is a solid franchise. It's doesn't really get shit for releasing iterations every time because their games are from the same foundation. They work well. People get what they expect, what they want, and with the open world, they make their own story. They don't even, they're busy doing their own shit, so they don't really notice or care whether the actual narrative is interesting enough or not. Whereas you have something like COD or Battlefield, you're literally riding a cardboard cutout shooter, on the rails campaign. And if you stray to one side or the other, oh, turn back now, or you get it blown up. I didn't even touch BF4's campaign because Battlefield 3 is atrocious. So those were my thoughts.
Playing the COD campaign, you literally don't have to do anything. Like, you just kind of point and shoot. But if you just sit behind the main character you're supposed to follow, it is like being on rails. And even then, you're still attached to the lead character by a short leash. You don't have to do anything except point and shoot here and there. And that game, just the campaign guides you through from start to finish. There is very little immersion inside of the Call of Duty franchise because of that. But, there was a point I wanted to add on, and I totally forgot it, and I'm fucking mad about it. I was like, don't forget, and I forgot.
I know the feel, bro.
Allow me a second to collect my thoughts. Scanner, go ahead.
Wait.
Or sorry, Tony, go.
My simple thoughts before the deep thoughts. You know what? Basically, like listening to the question, these kind of questions about the industry and their practices, it just boils down to it's Rockstar's decision to spend a boatload of money on their games. It's Activision's decision to spend whatever they spend on their games. What can we do? The question is, what can we do to improve the quality of games? Simple. Go out and become a game designer and make your own fucking games.
Right. Or vote with your wallet.
Voting with your wallet won't really do anything for certain titles because it's just this self-sustaining machine now. Call of Duty is not going to change because there's no reason to change the formula. GTA is such a successful franchise that they're not going to change their formula. Like, they've got what they want, so they put it out. So really the only thing you can do is go start up your own company and make the games that you want to make for whatever cost you want to make them at, as long as you can afford it. But that's what it boils down to. So when topics come in where it's about like the mechanics, like how does the business or how do these studios, these production companies, how do they do what they do, and should it change? It's like, well, we can talk about it all we want to, but the reality is we're not in the business. We're just the consumer.
My point regarding voting. Go ahead, finish.
No, I was the only thing is the Scanner can talk directly because he used to work in an industry very similar. So I know he can talk from the actual insider's perspective. But from an outsider, it's really like you really have no choice. And to vote with your wallet, you would have to amass a shit ton of people to make an impact.
Right, and eventually that does happen. It's one of those. You can only keep going by your personal feelings and let those guide your wallet. And if you're just like, you know what, I'm tired of the same narrative from this company or the path that they've decided to take, then that's fine. No one's forcing you to like anything. Just stop buying it. And other people may or may not feel that way. And if the majority or a number of people start feeling the same and they start not buying it, then that franchise could very well take a different direction. But I remembered my other point earlier, and it's a quick one. Just kind of the whole difference of something like Activision, the way they operate year after year, and then the way someone like, say, Naughty Dog or, oh my god, brain fart, who makes GTA?
Rockstar.
Thank you, Rockstar. I know, dude. This is what I've been operating on like 5 hours sleep average for months now. Actually,
you know what it is? It's when the sun goes down like at 5 o'clock, my brain turns off.
Yeah. But it's two different business models, at least how I view it. And Activision, like you said, they've got a working formula for now. They just need to progress it enough that it's different, a different enough iteration of the game year after year, and people are going to buy it. Like, is it the greatest thing ever? Certainly not. But it's good enough that people that are already in love with the franchise are going to keep coming back and buying it. And if you think about it, it's almost a safer business model, because even though you may not be blowing the record books wide open every single year with how much money you make on your game sales, you're still making a pretty damn decent profit year in and year out. Whereas something like what Naughty Dog and Rockstar do with their bigger releases, yeah, you may only get a game every 3, 4, or 5 years, but they're hitting huge sales numbers when these come out. But it's definitely a high risk, high reward thing, and some companies certainly aren't willing to make that kind of risk. Be like, okay, we're buying into this game. Like, this is all we have for the next 4 years, and we're dumping a couple $100 million into it. It's got to fucking hit the ball out of the park, and that's where you end up getting that quality from.
You know, I think you do have a point about the risk versus reward, because you look at The Last of Us, a brand new IP, and they have no idea how well it's going to sell, and look how popular it has become.
Right.
But that, I think a lot of people probably didn't get it from the get-go, just because it was, here's another zombie game. But because it got such rave reviews, I think a lot of people ate that up, especially when it came out on PS4.
Yeah.
But anyways, we shouldn't keep Scanner. I know he's chomping.
I got one more thing to just kind of elaborate on the whole high risk, high reward thing. Because it's such a high risk, high reward, I feel like that's where you end up getting, you're more likely to get a more quality game, because they need to really try and achieve something worthwhile, something memorable, because they've only got their one IP that's coming out every 3 to 4 years. If it fails, they're fucked. That was everything they were riding on, was that one game. They might have enough capital, whether they just had good business sense to pocket a ton of money from the previous launch, or they've got good investors that they can ride out, and hope they hit on the next release. But I think that's why you end up finding that these games with longer development times, it's no coincidence that they tend to be a bit better quality. They have to. They really need to put in the time and money to invest in making sure they've got a good storyline to back their product, so that it makes people fucking talk about it and go out and buy it, and it makes that much longer development time worthwhile. But I'll turn it over to Scanner at this point, because we've all had our say.
I don't really have a huge amount to add. Like, everything that I would have said has been said, and we had such an involved conversation about fucking art of all things. I couldn't be fucked mentioning French fucking philosophers. That was really just like a setup for myself anyway, as to where I wanted my thoughts to go. I'm just going to sum things up by the biggest change within gaming over recent years hasn't been anything that devs or publishers or anybody else are doing. It's a sudden air of mass expectancy. It was always there, but it's becoming more and more prevalent, and it's something that we need to watch within ourselves as gamers. Suddenly, many of us, myself included, sometimes seem to think like every game that's created is supposed to be created for us, specifically. And that's simply not the case. And that really sums up just about everything about this entire question. Is some games will be made and they will appeal to me, and some games will be made that won't appeal to me. And I should simply buy and play and discuss and talk about the ones that I like. The rest don't affect me in any way. The existence of a title that I have no interest in has no effect on my life whatsoever. And that's it. We can just move on from there. If there's games out there that we don't like, we don't buy them. We buy the ones we do like, and then we buy the next ones that we like. And it's that simple. It's almost like this moment of offense occurs the second that sometimes people realize, oh, this game is being released and it's not specifically designed for me in every facet. Like, for me, my big wake-up moment was BF4. That was my big wake-up moment. All of a sudden, I had this game that was in no way designed for me. And I just had to admit that to myself. I had to go, right, I'm at a point of divergence with a studio that I've liked. Their vision has grown very different to my desire, and I moved on. And that's all. That really just sums it up for me. And I didn't even say we have to get over ourselves once. Which was good. But sometimes we do. Sometimes we just need to get over ourselves a little bit. other people will do things that we don't like and that don't interest us, and they'll have financial success with them. That's it. That's all it means. It means the market is varied.
Well, I think there's a difference between not enjoying something personally. Like I know that League of Legends is something that I would never enjoy, and just thinking about it gives me a headache. But there's a huge market for it, and that doesn't mean that that's a shitty game. I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between subjective and objective, where, like, I feel like AC Unity, when it came out, it was a shitty game. Like, some
See,
people enjoyed it, but the baseline quality, like, if you looked at it objectively, if there was a checklist of, okay, this is a solid game release, it works.
is it a shitty game though, or is it a shitty product?
That's actually a
Ooh,
very,
good question.
very strong and important distinction to make.
You know,
Yeah,
the
okay.
basic tenets of what should be a good game are there. It's got pedigree, it's got emotional investment from the people who play it. It's got beautiful art. Like the 3D environments in that game are absolutely fucking magnificent. They were trying to push interesting stuff with crowd size and AI and all that kind of shit. They just fucked up, like on a ton of
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
Like the product part of it was weak as all fuck, but the basics that are in there to make up a game, I think are actually surprisingly strong. And I've got almost no interest in Assassin's Creed as a series, like very little. Like I never really have a desire to play those games until I can get them super cheap on Steam. That's where I stand on Assassin's Creed. But Unity, I can look at it and I can see appeal. Like I can see the building blocks of what would be a very, very enjoyable experience for fans of the series. But as a product, what a fucking mass failure.
It really
That's a good
was.
distinction. That's like the perfect distinction.
Yep. Poetic game speak. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Scanner drops the mic.
And
Don't
it's
drop
like,
it. It's
It's like
expensive.
it's like Destiny, right, Jess?
What mic? Okay, Tony, don't get me started on Destiny because we'll be here all night.
We
I
might
know,
we may
that's-
have time to go over some host topics that we can discuss Destiny.
I don't even think I want to discuss it. I'm so done with it right now.
When's the next DLC come out?
December 9th.
December. Okay,
the first,
so
the first DLC comes out.
we'll hold off
Oh.
because that'll definitely be a good topic that you can school us all on
Okay.
in your vast
In my
Destiny knowledge.
near 300 hours of torturing myself.
Oh my
300
God.
hours now.
I was at 260. I'm exaggerating. It's between like 250 and 280. I know.
Jesus, fuck.
Yeah. It's
Well,
Crafty,
I've-
man. Crafty and the boys. I love playing with them. Just hate that
I've
fucking game.
played like all of the first level.
Oh, if you need a buddy
Yeah.
to help you out, go through it. Like playing
we'll
alone
see.
sucks, man. It's so boring.
Well, it's essentially basically like the beta was like what the first 3 missions.
Yeah, and I hated
Yeah.
the
So, yeah, I hated the beta too. I didn't hate it. I was just like, meh.
yeah, it's like
But-
really, that's it.
I kind of find it funny that I've like how I got Destiny. I don't know if I should tell that story or not, but we're on the topic.
Unless you had sex with somebody to get it, there's no reason.
No, it was just
don't
like
want
a
to
random. It was just like a random chance sort
a
of a
giveaway?
thing. Yeah, it was a giveaway. That's what I thought was like. I don't know. It was one of those moments. Fuck it, I'll tell a story anyways.
Do it.
Because I saw. So here's what it is. I saw Snoov. I saw your tweet about Neebs Gaming one the other night, right?
Oh yeah,
So
okay.
you tweeted out you were watching the stream or whatever, and so because you know those guys, I was like, I got done fucking around, so I was like, I'm gonna just watch the stream, no big deal, right? I was blown away by the fact that they had like, I don't know, 500 viewers.
Yeah,
It was
they usually
ridiculous.
pull in over 600 viewers
Yeah,
on
it was-
average.
Apparently it was like 600, and then by the time I got there, it was like 550. And so I was watching them play whatever that last DLC for Battlefield is. The
Final stand.
I was gonna say like Last Stand, Final Stand, something like that. And then they were talking about there's this guy. His name was like Easter Bunny or some shit like that. It must have been a rich motherfucker because he kept donating money to remain on the top like donations. So this other
Okay.
dude like donated like $102, and then homeboy Easter Bunny donated like 103 like a minute later. Like they were back and forth donating hundreds of dollars to the Neebs Gaming, right? So then apparently this guy had like codes, Destiny codes to give away. So Neebs is like, okay, if you want a Destiny code, go on to our Facebook page, comment on this video, and say I want the Destiny code or whatever. So I was watching the stream and I was just like, you know what? I really don't want it because I know I'm not gonna play it. But I mean, fuck it. If they're gonna give away a free code, why not? So I did. I waited a few minutes and finally I said, boom, there, fine. I put it on there, no big deal. And then they did a random. They had like 216 comments on this one video, this one thing on Facebook, right? So one of them does like this random numerical calculator on his phone. It comes up with like 82 was the number. So he counts down 82 comments and lands on the one like right above my name. And then the guy wanted it for PC, and so Neebs is like, yeah, we don't, it's not for PC. So jumps down, the next person is me. I was just like, what the fuck? That was just so random. Yeah, so it was just so random. Like I want to go to his channel, like find that part of the stream and just like capture that. Just like a little memento. I probably could. I should.
I do it sooner than later before it's no longer up there on archive.
That's true. But it was just so random because like I don't really have that much interest in Destiny. And I just, you know, just like, fuck it, whatever. See what happens. Kind of a moment. So basically, I feel obligated to give it at least 60 hours.
I gotcha. That's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I'd really like it if Destiny came out on PC. That would really appeal.
I would too. I would give it a shot if it were on PC. I just don't
Destiny.
have
They
the
need
money to go invest into a next gen console right now.
Oh my god. Okay, Scanner will like this for sure. Because I've known Scanner for a number of years now, and Snoov, you'll like this too, and I think Jess will as well. But playing Destiny on console or playing a shooter on console, I'm finding myself like about the controls. Like I've gotten to that point as a PC gamer now where I'm like kind of about the controller, and it makes me feel so dirty to openly admit the fact that I like the keyboard and mouse controls now better than the sticks.
They both have their places, and for the most part, I'm with you. I agree. Sorry, I'm with you. I feel the same sentiments about liking mouse and keyboard way better than controller, but there's still some games where controller just feels too goddamn good to give up.
Well, no, I mean like for Assassin's Creed,
anything action adventure in a third person. If you're not using a controller, you're a tool, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, same thing with flying jets. Chopper
it makes more sense.
Like Chopper in Battlefield, I can fucking fly like a champ with mouse and keyboard. I can fly better than I could on console. And Chris and I were actually two pretty damn good Chopper pilots when we were playing Battlefield 3. I can't fly a jet for shit on a mouse and keyboard, and I have my controller plugged in specifically for that. It's the only game that I've been currently playing lately on PC that has something I can use a controller for. I bought Shadow of Mordor. I haven't had the chance to jump into it yet, but when I do, I'll be using a controller for that. Oh dang, who's hitting us?
People are interested in my Zim.
Oh yeah.
I'm interested in your Zim because I'll be getting a PS4 just for Bloodborne, and if there's if there's no indication of Destiny coming out on PC at any point, I'll pick it up for the PS4, but only if I can use a Zim. For the simple reason that I do not have I'm not that guy who can keep up to snuff on multiple control formats. Like I will never be like functional with a mouse and keyboard and a controller at the same time when it comes to FPS games.
Yep, I hear you there.
The time spent invested to get good at one would cost me on the other.
Jess, go ahead and link that Zim in the chat.
All right, disclaimer. I am not sponsored by them, nor is the podcast. I just really like it.
As of today, November 24th, 2014, Dawnbreaker Gaming is not affiliated with Zim. However, we are open to any and all future possible professional affiliations or promotions that would hitherto lead to me getting free shit. So keep that in mind.
All right. This little guy, he was 125 of the United States dollars, and it's pretty handy. I love it. I've been using the mouse and keyboard on the PS4, Destiny, Far Cry, Infamous. I haven't tried it on The Last of Us yet, but I'm sure it would work just the same. It comes with this little boop, 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 this guy. I think it comes with another wire too, but it comes with this USB that you hook up. You gotta hook this up to your PS4, like so. Then you hook it up to the controller. Now the only downside is if you have a headset that uses the input and the controller, you can't use it at the same time. You either have to have another controller and finagle it to log in with that one and go into party chat with your other controller. I don't. I just use my USB headset from my PC. It's the Logitech G35. I think most of them would work because even my Yeti works with the PS4. So you should, if you have a USB headset, try it out. You need a USB headset to use a headset with the Zim. Anyway, then you plug the mouse and keyboard in here. You turn on the controller. You poke the little Bluetooth button, and you use either your computer with an app and a Bluetooth dongle, or your phone with an app, and you can completely customize all the settings. I can pull it up for you guys so you can take a peek.
Is that how you do the key bindings?
The key bindings are gonna. I think they will work even without the. I don't think it's on, so it might not be able to. Let me turn it on.
So was it just automatic? Like when you plugged in your keyboard, did it automatically like recognize WASD as your controls?
As far as I know, I don't think. I mean, I didn't have to change any settings on here. You might have to register it initially with the app, but you know, once you should I plug it in? Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Once you have it, like I don't need to have it open while I'm playing. Like I can just now that I registered it the first time, I can just plug it all in and it goes and it saves your settings. You can like so I have it on for Destiny right now, so I can go in the edit and I can change the sensitivity on my hip fire, sensitivity on my aim down sights. I can go into the buttons. It tells me all the buttons, and I can customize that. Like I've even customized it to my thumb buttons on the mouse. It's just like playing on PC.
Oh,
So,
damn.
Nice.
even if you have the because controllers, the acceleration on turning is atrocious. You can turn the settings up. Usually in game you can do that, and then also with the mouse, it doesn't stop at 100. I've gone way past 100. You can go to 135. I don't even know where it stops. The only downside is if it's a new game, you find the game in the app to be able to bind the stuff. But newer games like Far Cry 4 wasn't on here, so I just used Destiny settings for it, which kind of messed up if I had them fine-tuned for Destiny itself. But, not a huge deal. You can still use it, you just have to kind of fiddle it and put it back when you're done. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
If I get a PS4, I have to get that.
Yeah, there's pretty much, I haven't noticed any really input lag. I mean, if there is, it's like 3 milliseconds, if that. I don't know. Not something that I would notice because I'm not like a hardcore, performance kind of person.
Yeah.
But it's great because, I've gotten used to the controller with you playing Destiny so much, but it's just more natural for me to use a keyboard and mouse, so I like that better.
Gotcha. All right, while Tony's gone, I'll jump on to the next topic because he didn't actually have anything to say on this in the Google Doc. And this one to be curious because I know there's a lot of people in the chat that are subscribers of mine and everyone's, and they're mostly got a Battlefield background, so this would be a good one. This one is from NFD Mark. Thoughts on the Phantom Bow, culmination of the Phantom program, and final stand? How about the hunt for the password? I'll jump off on this one because I haven't had one to jump on off yet. I have mixed feelings about it. As a fan of Battlefield, and even though I've had... Let me start over. I know how I feel about it. I have mixed feelings on Battlefield 4. Like, everyone has known that. I mean, I went from loving it to fucking hating it to kind of finding my happy place with it. It's not a game that's good enough to be taken seriously, but if you just go in and fuck around, you can appreciate, what it has to offer and enjoy it in that regards. But as far as the whole Phantom assignment thing goes, I think it's bullshit. It's nothing but kind of like a sideshow, just distraction. It would have been really cool if it came out maybe like after the second DLC, just something to add a little bit more depth to what you were doing inside the game. Something that would be really fun, take you in a whole different direction as far as, how do I want to say this? I'm trying to elaborate on something that doesn't need elaborating. it would just be a fun distraction for something kind of different to do, and just to have fun with it, you know. And that's kind of how I felt about the crossbow when they brought it in with Battlefield 3 in the Aftermath DLC. And I can't remember, that was not the last one. And see, it fitted in well with that because the game was still relatively new and fresh, but it kind of just added this gimmicky little niche element to the game where you could just go fuck around with this thing, and it wasn't a viable weapon to use inside the game at all, but it was fun to dick around with for a little bit. And in that context, I think it would have been great had they brought it in at that point. But bringing in at the very end of the life cycle, and to be honest, we're well past the end of the Battlefield 4 life cycle. If you look at number of players playing on average now compared to, say, 3 or 4 months after the game came out, I'm pretty sure the numbers are way down. It just, I see that, and while they have made progress on Battlefield 4, knowing how much time, money, and effort went into doing this kind of rubs me the wrong way. Seeing how much farther Battlefield 4 has to go, even after a year after it's been out and all that shit that went into it, it's still not even as good functioning-wise as its predecessor. And that, so when this whole thing came out and I saw just how much people bought into it, and a lot of them, you know, were people that were either genuinely interested because they still love the game, or just YouTubers that were trying to cash a fucking quick check on being the first ones to do it, whatever the case may be, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, that's nice. The game's still broken, but hey guys, have fun for the next 2 weeks chasing down that fucking password for a stupid bow that I guarantee you inside of 2 weeks from today, no one's going to be talking about or using on the regular anymore.
If they wanted Final Stand to land and land well, all they had to do was include their little phantom bow and all their lore and all their out-of-game shit that they want. But within game, the only thing that you should need to do to win, like to unlock that phantom bow, is your assignment should just say win 50 games. Can you imagine the fucking servers? Everybody scrabbling for that win because they all want their little digital trinket. Like that's my issue with it. Is it directly contradicts what DICE will say publicly about wanting to improve teamwork and game quality on the servers, and then they'll come out with stuff that just drags everybody away from actually working to win.
I just clicked on that image that Coleman posted of all the like hints and locations. That's fucking insane. You know, people are just running around the map, just looking at stuff, not even playing.
My God, I heard that you had to get one dog tag from all 4 maps, and they spawned in a different location. Upwards of what I'm seeing now is apparently 26 different possible locations. If I'm understanding this correctly. That's absurd. I think I just fucked up the chat. Yeah, I did. Lol.
It's fucking stupid.
Squantoon's right. He made a really good point. If the Phantom Bow distracted you from the game's problems, then they win and you lose.
What I find hilarious is that you've got, like, the day the bow was available, there was people on unranked servers just like playing games with the bow.
Yep.
Where it doesn't matter a shit, but you can access it straight away.
Right.
And on ranked servers where people might be trying to actually like win and do stuff and gain enjoyment from PTFO, you got 27 jerk-offs running around the map looking for a fucking dog tag. It honestly, it makes me sad that there was such community mismanagement around BF4. It's almost tragic.
Yep. It's actually... Sorry, I had to chuckle to myself because the point you made about if they had changed the assignment to be revolving around winning games versus doing all this gimmicky shit, like how different the current landscape of Battlefield 4 would be. And then I thought, okay, well, take into consideration exactly what it is they want you to do, and like all these weird assignments you have to do to complete the overall assignment. And I had to chuckle because it seems like even the people behind Battlefield have taken the same kind of approach to their own fucking game that I have, where they just kind of like, you know what, we can't take this seriously anymore because it sucks in that regard. But if you want to fuck around a whole lot, everyone's gonna have a lot of fun doing that. So let's just embrace that role. And that's the impression that even I'm getting at this point, that everything that they do is just kind of revolving around gimmicky fucking around shit and has nothing to do with the game. Oh my god, what's the term I'm looking for? Kind of the game's past, like everything that it was based on to begin with, and not just with Battlefield 3, but its predecessors, where objective gameplay was like the heart and soul of that game. And at this point, it just feels like they've completely abandoned it. And now it's making me think, like, does it have anything to do with the fact that the game sucks in the regards that you cannot take it seriously as a competitive game, or is that a byproduct of how people are portraying it online? Like, do you think they're influenced by the success that some YouTubers are having in that regard? These are the thoughts I have regarding Battlefield 4. Maybe I shouldn't, but that crossed my mind and I felt like sharing.
It's definitely a factor. Like, when, you know, I really appreciate like funny Battlefield videos. They make me laugh. I appreciate stunt videos because a lot of them are like, some of that stunt pilot shit is stuff that I could never do. And I really like watching it, but I question the wisdom of that becoming the main thing that your game promotes about itself. Like an equal balance of, you know, tactically driven, insightful content and the stuff that lets people know the game is actually fun to fucking play as well.
Right.
Is important. And they really fell off the wagon. They had a really good balance for BF3. BF4, it all just went out the fucking window, and it was partially a panic response to the game because there wasn't a huge amount of really good, tactically insightful stuff going around. Instead, they had guys who were smart, like your man Battle Nonsense, picking their game apart, letting them know what was wrong with it. And that's not the kind of thing that you can put up on your fucking Twitter feed when you're a game dev.
Right. Which is funny because he's probably got some of the most well-informed and technically informative videos out there regarding Battlefield, and that's certainly something, like you said, they can't share because how are they going to spin that? Like, hey guys, check out this, you know, really well done video about how much our game sucks in this specific regard.
Isn't he a developer himself?
I have no idea. I do know that he seems to get to talk to them a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I heard him talk about how I think he works in game developing. That guy Chris.
Say that again?
The guy's name's Chris. I think he works like as a game developer.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know anything about his background.
I saw it was in a comment section. It was about the CT. It was several videos ago. I think he said something about developing, but I'm not sure. Wouldn't that be interesting if he was like, you know, maybe worked for DICE and knew them very closely and and was doing this on the side?
That's true. I do know that he gets some of his information from the team. His most recent video discussing netcode. I remember him talking about it. Where the shit did I see it? It was either a tweet or something he posted on Reddit where he said, you know, he had a video coming up and he was going to discuss it because he had talked with some of the guys at DICE behind the scenes, and he was like, I think I understand it, but it's really fucking technical, so I'll make a video on it trying to break it down that everyone can understand it. I didn't care enough to even watch the video, though. I'm past it at this point. If they could have fixed it, they would have fixed it. And guess what? They haven't. So,
no, Snoop, no.
So, I mean, that was what you missed, kind of, Tony, as you came in. What spawned this part of the conversation was our thoughts on the Phantom Bow in Final Stand. If you want to add anything onto that before, we can probably cover one more topic before we wrap it up for the night.
Oh, for fuck's sake, the bow! I could care less. To be honest, dude, it's just like the crossbow from Battlefield 3. It's fun for like that first time that you get it and you kill people with the arrow. You're just like, ha ha, I got you with the crossbow, and then it wears off. So whatever. It's just a fun little thing. It's not like it's Far Cry, where it's kind of a cool essential weapon. It's just there.
Right. All right, so there was a couple of leftover topics from last week we didn't get around to, and there's one that actually we had quite a bit to say regarding the releasing of unprepared games. And we lightly talked about that earlier, and I think what we'll do is next week we'll jump off on that. Because
We said that last time.
I know, I forgot and I fucked up. So
right in the beginning, Limit was like, "What about my topic?"
I know, Limit. I'm
Like,
sorry.
there, buddy.
I meant to cover that first this time because I know it's going to eat up a lot of time, and unfortunately, at this point, we're about an hour and 15 minutes into it now, and I can see this easily eating up another half an hour, and I don't want to devote that much time to it at the tail end of this. So we'll save it for next week. Jess, if you could make a note above it, please, as I'm going through here, to make sure that we cover that first for next week, please. I'd appreciate it. And then we could probably axe that comment above Billy's. But so the last topic we have left over from last week was from Billy the Kid, and he wants to know our thoughts on the 30 frames per second Assassin's Creed debate. And this is interesting because this is kind of where the whole quote-unquote PC elitist crowd butts heads with the console quote-unquote peasants.
God.
And
yes.
It's an interesting topic because there's not much middle ground to be found on this. And I find it interesting as to what the reason is behind that. Having come from a huge console background, thank you for that huge fucking reminder, Jess. In like size 72 font, cover this first, dummy.
You're welcome.
Coming from a console background, I mean, I played nothing but console up until about 2 years ago. I'm 29 now, so up until I was about 27, I think I really built like a semi-legitimate PC rig right at my 27th birthday. And
Lies.
going from shut up. So going from console to that, like I could see like, okay, that was the whole point. I wanted to go to PC because I wanted more frames, I wanted higher graphics, I wanted everything to look pretty. And when I went from that, it was eye-opening. It was like, holy fuck. I mean, there's nothing wrong with console. If that's all people can afford, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if that's what you prefer, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But even, having played on console for so long, I could realize that and admit that PC is just superior in so many fucking ways. And most importantly, frames per second. And I feel like people that say frames per second don't matter are just in denial. Because it may not matter, but it certainly makes a fucking positive difference in the overall game quality. And what Ubisoft tried doing with this 30 frames per second locked in bullshit was just like, you're telling me not to buy your games ever again. I do not support a company like this. You shouldn't hold back other tech because people with lesser tech are going to be like, oh, ours can't do that. That's not fair. It is what it is, man. Not everyone gets a fucking trophy at the end of the day. Neither does, so don't hold me to 30 FPS when my shit can do a lot more than that. I'm probably going a little off.
I think a lot of it has to. I think a lot of it has to do with what's their largest base. PC gaming is probably a lot smaller of a fraction of their profit than console gaming, so it makes sense. And they're also, from what I understand, it's a console port in the first place, so it's developed with console in mind, and it's really no surprise because the same thing happened with Watch Dogs, right? It was not this super powerful, utilize your entire PC game. What drives me nuts though is just like being a PC gamer and also having console and being a console gamer for so long. It's just like when these ports happen and then PC players are up in arms that the quality is not what they expected. They have like this entitlement that they should be able to get 120 frames from every single title, even though it is a console port to PC. They just don't want to, I guess, apparently don't want to spend the money to develop specifically for PC, and that's their prerogative. I just find it funny that everyone loses their shit over it.
Right, I agree with that. The only time I would side with like the PC crowd when they're really pissed off about that is when you know that you're getting an inferior end product, just because they're holding it back. Like they've actively and consciously decided to hold the port back instead of giving you something that's capable of being better for the sake of trying to achieve the so-called platform parity that recently came up from that fucking idiot from Ubisoft recently. And in that aspect, I side with the PC gamers. And even if it wasn't the PC gamers, I don't care who the hell it is. If they're holding it back for no other reason than, well, we feel bad about these guys, that's not right. Like, you're making me pay for a full price for a product that's not the full end product for my platform. And it's not a matter of, like, you didn't put in, you know, a ton of time and money to make a standalone end product for my platform. You're just not giving me the full potential of what you've sold me. So it's, I understand your point and I agree with it. I just kind of trying to add more context to it.
No, I mean I understand what you're saying as well. But there's something to be said for uniformity, and I think that's what they're just getting at. They want all their players to have a uniform experience.
Yeah, I'll do
Perhaps.
a uniform experience. Ubisoft games release broken for every platform. Man. It's fine.
That's so true.
Jess, go ahead. I don't want to keep talking and because
No.
it seemed like
Well,
you were gonna say something.
what I was thinking was, I remember last gen we had the issue where in the beginning of the life cycle, games weren't as well optimized, and they didn't perform as well because it was new. They were still learning, you know, how to code with the new architecture, and right now we probably see that as well as them trying to program for 5 platforms at a time. I mean, obviously, Unity doesn't have that excuse because it was just next gen, but overall, there's still kind of a learning curve going on. So we'll probably see the performance increase a little bit again, especially once the old platforms are done with. But I do think that if you are, I understand using the least common denominator, or whatever the fuck that saying is, because I can math. They, like, if I have a decent computer and I'm getting under or barely 30 frames per second, that's ridiculous. Like, why is that happening? That's like saying, if a game comes out, like, let's say Super Smash Brothers, that came out on the Wii U and the 3DS. That's like them putting it out on the 3DS and then scaling it to the Wii U and having these polygonal, horrible shit, you know, avatars, because they're like, well, we didn't want the 3DS to feel bad because theirs is worse. I don't know. That is the closest analogy I would think, because I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you're just whining because you're PC." No, like, that's the product. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make the product that'll work on my platform. You're supposed to. I don't have words because I get angry about it and then I can't speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of marketing shit involved because it's painfully obvious to, I think, the vast majority of players is, as Tony pointed out, PC would be the smaller market, so they don't really care as much.
They're the most vocal though. Shit.
They don't care about the ones who maybe have lower end PCs that may not be able to run a title that they would be able to run with just better optimization, and they don't care about the really high end guys who genuinely want a game to utilize every part of their rig. They're always aiming at this kind of middle group of effectively what I'm going to term like slightly above console level PCs would be the average gaming PC out there. We all like to think it's like, oh, you know, high end rigs and all this shit, but it's not. Like, most people have a functional gaming PC, and you know, they play their games medium to high and they enjoy them. So Ubisoft kind of sit there and they just don't see a massive value in trying to overly appeal to a limited market, but they also don't have the honor to admit that that's what's actually up. That we don't overly value PC gamers. They learn nothing over like the entirety of the last year. A lot of the launch issues with Far Cry 4 are exactly the same, like mirror image of launch issues for Watch Dogs. They learned nothing from Watch Dogs that made them add more boxes to a checklist for Far Cry 4 and make them tick them. Absolutely nothing. It's the same stutters when you're trying to go fast. It's the same crashes with the same fucking, you know, issues when you're switching items in your inventory. Just like in Watch Dogs, there's engine elements or architectural elements or design elements that are similarly flawed, and they do nothing to improve the experience because they don't see the point. Because fuck you. That's just Activision right now. I'm kind of hoping that 12-point drop in their fucking share value will maybe scare them into showing, like, okay, we need to cater more, if only to avoid the PR, because that PR, like, that hurt them, and it will hurt them for a while. And I would expect, like, the only thing I've seen over the last year is excitement for faraway Ubisoft projects diminishing rapidly in everyone around me. The Division was all anybody could talk about. Now I can find very few people who give two fucks about that game because it's probably going to release broke. Siege is the same thing. Like, people have very little excitement left for future Ubisoft titles compared to the E3 moment when we all thought, okay, Ubisoft could have a pretty amazing year here. And instead, I said it in a video, they shat on themselves and then rolled around in it. And that was Ubisoft's year this year. It was dumb. They're just weird. The 30 FPS thing, I could give a fuck. I can't even remember. Like, if I want to see 30 FPS, I'll look at a fucking photograph. Like,
wave it around really fast.
Yeah, just like wiggle it around. It's like, FPS, it's a difference maker when it's a difference maker for everybody. Like, me playing at 30 FPS versus somebody of equal skill at 120 FPS, do they have an extra advantage on me? Yes, they do. They've got more frames. They're going to be having subconscious reactions to things they don't even realize that they're seeing on the screen, but they're seeing them. They have an advantage. When everybody has 30 FPS, it doesn't mean shit. Like, everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's playing the same thing at the same frames, the same graphical fidelities. Like, it doesn't mean anything there. The big issue for me is that these highly touted new consoles are so far failing to do what was advertised. And that's actually a major fucking issue. Like, if you go back, which I might even do, and just extensively go through different reveals and different times that Sony and Microsoft execs talked about at what point does an interview become an advertisement, and at what point does saying you're going to be trying to deliver 1080p at 60 FPS become a promise, and at what point have Xbox and Sony broken that promise and effectively, like, fraudulently advertised systems that just can't do what they claimed they were going to do. It's a weird spot.
I always wondered where, I think there was a conversation we had a while back, but where graphical fidelity trumps good story. I think, Scanner, you did a commentary, or you talked about good story over graphics.
Yep.
But constantly, well, like The Division, who knows what that game's going to be like. It could have the best story that we've seen in the last 5 years, but people are not willing to give it a shot because it's not going to have the graphics they want.
Nobody cares about the graphics. I could give a fuck about what the graphics in The Division look like. What I worry about is I bought Far Cry 4. I spent 2 fucking days figuring out how to get that to run on my, like, even start on my fucking PC. I bought Watch Dogs. I spent the first couple of days losing all my save games, having nothing but, like, stutter and fucking, terrible, like, frame rate juddering to a halt. This isn't how the game looks. This is that same concept of, like, how it actually is as a product. And right now, Ubisoft can't release a decent product. The only 2 games that Ubisoft managed to release this year without launch issue were Valiant Hearts and Child of Light. And they're both indie level games. Real, like, small, low budget projects. Their major tentpole stuff, every one of them had a botched launch. So there's no smart consumer could look at this year for Ubisoft and think, I'm buying The Division on day one because it's not going to have any problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, The Division, it could look like fucking the back of a Wheaties box. I could give 2 shits once it plays well and it's a good game. It's just that, obviously, being on PC, I would like to be able to experience the superior back of a Wheaties box.
Skinner, I apologize because I was typing in the chat and I missed. What was that last point you said about the Division? Just like a couple of sentences ago.
Oh, I can't remember what I say myself. That's way too much. I was just kind of saying that, like, it was probably just the point of, you look at this year for Ubisoft and the releases of all their big games, there's no incentive to buy the Division early. And, like, it's not going to have a smooth launch. It's not going to launch without bugs and flaws and crashes and bad experiences.
See, now I'm of the opinion it could go either way.
No, you're wrong. I wouldn't normally do this to you, and I'm really sorry, and I don't mean to be rude, but you're wrong. I understand you're an optimist, but you're wrong.
Oh, no. This isn't optimism. I think this is just business sense.
No.
Because Ubisoft is now crashed and burned on their last, 3 titles in a row? And what's their next big title that's coming out? As far as I know, it's The Division. They cannot suffer another crippling launch like they have these past few launches.
I don't think they'll give a shit.
They just...
I think they'll do it again.
Yeah,
if they do, that's going to be the utter downfall of their company. And you know what?
Yeah.
I fucking wish it upon them. That's the only reason why I think that The Division has the potential to be a lot better on release than it most likely will be. It probably will be shit. But given... I mean, if Ubisoft has any fucking sense in what they're doing, if they get someone in there to run the show that can pull their own head out of their ass for 5 fucking minutes, understand the current landscape of the gaming industry and see where the fuck it is they stand, and they give a flying shit about the future of their company, they'll put in the time, money, and effort to make sure the Division launches to meet all the expectations that they hyped us up to see a fucking year ago. And if they don't, that company is going to crash and burn so goddamn hard. And I feel terrible because I know one person fairly close, not like really close, but I know one guy that works there. He's a great guy, really friendly, and I'd fucking hate for him to lose his job. But you know what? Hopefully he's got something lined up. He can go at least work for another company, because there's just no way Ubisoft can suffer a shit launch with The Division. Considering they started that hype train, by the time it comes out, 2 years in advance before the game even launches.
People will... It's the same kind of dichotomy that we were talking about earlier with regards to the GTA versus the CODs. I guarantee you that Assassin's Creed Unity sold well. Like, it's going to do what it needs to do for them. Far Cry 4 is going to do what it needs to do for them. Whatever botched, shitty game
I bought it.
they release is going to do fine for them. Most people aren't in a position where what's wrong with their game actually affects their enjoyment of it. It's that, like, I mention this a lot, but we pick up on things that most people won't notice because we have stuff like maybe more of a passion for gaming than the average consumer, extended game playing sessions. Like, the average person is sitting down, they've got maybe 2 hours a couple of times a week that they can play their games. You sit down for a 6-hour session, you're far more likely to get crashes and bugs and problems. The longer you're playing a game, you're more likely to experience things. So for most people, it doesn't really matter one way or another. Like, once the game works at all, it works. The average guy who buys Assassin's Creed Unity and falls through the map, he has a chuckle about it. It's hilarious to him, and he reloads his game and off he goes.
That's true.
But we make a deal out of it because it's important to us that the games that we buy are good. Like, it's always a considered decision to buy something, and by buying that thing, you're not getting 10 other things. So we want what you promote to be good.
Given that, you do make an excellent point. And sorry.
I can't.
We're picking on Tony in the background.
Oh, that's awesome.
But given
shit.
I think the Division is going to flop, which sucks. You know, it's one of those, it's just going to be like Watch Dogs all over again, but even worse, because I think what they
I'm
hyped
so
up,
mad at Watch Dogs.
what they hyped up for what the division could be, theoretically, over a year ago now at this point, because it was E3 last year when we first saw shit on it.
I thought it'd been like 2 years now.
It's pretty close.
It's been a while, but
It's about a year and a half.
So here's from a console standpoint, I didn't have any problems with Watch Dogs, and so far, minus one moment where my frames dipped, I haven't had any problems with Assassin's Creed. But that's one console out of many, and out a bunch of experience. So when I hear people talking about
Did you
the
get
shit,
the faces disappearing? That looks fantastic.
no, I
Have you
didn't
seen
get that deal.
glitch? Their
No,
face
not yet.
model disappears except for their eyes and their teeth, and they
No,
look
I
like a
haven't seen
fucking
that.
monster head.
The only thing that the two things that I've seen is I saw a dude floating, but he was supposed to be on the stairs, but he was floating. He was like floating just floating, fucking floating. And the other one was I was hanging on the side of I think it was Notre Dame, and I was panning around, and then when I was panning to a certain side, the frames like dropped to like 5 frames a second. But the second I moved the camera back, where you're facing the building, it all went away. Other than that, there's only 2 instances that I've seen. So for me, the release has been fine. I haven't had any major problems with the title on PS4.
Nice.
So I'm lucky. Like I said, either I'm lucky or it could just be console experience versus PC experience.
Normally, I'd say yes, but Unity had so many issues across all its platforms. I was reading like a lot of reports on it, and just stuff coming in from everywhere, and that's not normally the case. With any game, it's normally like one platform will be especially kind of plagued by issues outside the norm, but
PC.
Unity was just bad.
What
Yeah,
I'd
it's
like to do is I think next month I'm gonna pick up Rogue for PS3, and I want to see if this is just a next gen / PC problem, or maybe Rogue is fucked up for PS3. I don't even know if it's on PC or not, but it would be interesting.
Snoove making me laugh in the chat.
All right, I'll say it out anyway. They're talking about Battlefront in the chat, and that is something that anyone that has over Battlefront is a fucking idiot. And I'm not sorry for saying that. It has to be said. DICE Sweden has proven time and time again they're incapable of getting their fucking shit engine, as good as it looks, to actually function properly. And hit detection apparently is not very high on its list of priorities for like what should function inside their game. Battlefront's going to be on the same fucking engine, and even if they can change their server structure, because as I understand it, the current server quality that Battlefield 4 is on is part of the problem with what they can do in game as far as like refresh rates go and all that. Doesn't matter, it's still gonna be on the same engine, and that engine apparently has limitations that they cannot overcome. If they could have, they would have, and if they decided not to, for whatever fucking reason, then I'm not gonna support that company moving forward anyway, because I can't stand by a company that would do that, like actively not want to fix their game if they did have a solution. Yeah. Battlefront is going to be Battlefield 4 all over again, just in a completely different setting, and anyone who thinks otherwise is fucking delusional.
Anyone who thinks otherwise, well, they haven't fixed Battlefield 4.
Exactly. And you know what?
That'll be the best advertisement for Battlefront in my opinion.
What?
Yeah, definitely.
Fixing Battlefield 4?
Yeah.
I think as long as BF4 is flawed, you treat Battlefront as a new IP from a new developer. DICE don't really deserve any kind of credit moving into this based off their last, like, even BF3 launch was fucked for a while, and Bad Company launch was fucked for a while, and most of their launches get fucked for a while. So you just kind of pinch of salt the entire scenario with Battlefront. If we're lucky, it'll all be laser weapons and they can just hit scan, take a huge amount of that effort out of the engine with all their little ballistics.
Yeah. Now at this point I'm just kind of reacting to what's going on in the chat. Of course, you guys are talking in Skype too, so that makes it...
I'm going to tweet you now as well, hang on. Just to fuck with you.
You guys are challenging my multitasking. Ola's in there. under Battlefield Podcast, and he's gonna do the unconventional thing about Battlefront and reserve judgment, as opposed to what seems to be the norm: condemn, buy on day one, and complain. You know what? I'll say it now. I'm gonna take a gamble on a game that I know is probably gonna be not great, and I'm more than likely gonna be buying Hardline. I think it'll be decent in the aspect of Battlefield 4. I don't expect anything other than a half decent game out of Hardline. It seems Battlefield 4 definitely plays better for me when it's a maximum of 48 players. Whenever it goes to 64 players, it just turns into a shit show. Like, hit detection gets like really fucking spotty, even when pings across the board are good. And I think it must be a limitation within the engine. I don't know, but I notice a definite decrease in overall hit detection consistency when I get into 64 players. If I understand it, Hardline is going to have a max of 48 players. I could be wrong. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they go to 64, but with a max of 48, I think smaller player counts, smaller maps, less things going on that the engine needs to actually compute and keep up with. The experience might be a tad better than Battlefield 4 is now in its most complete, polished state. I'm going to take a gamble. Well, I'm not taking a gamble on it. I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to piss and moan about it from day one because I'm not expecting too much out of it to begin with anyway. But Battlefront, given that it's coming from DICE Sweden, no.
He's a broken man, people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Call of Duty, you know? Like, I gave those companies the benefit of the doubt a few times, and then they just proved time and time again that they were unwilling to go beyond a certain point with quality. And hey, that's fine. If that's the direction you want to take your company, cool, but I refuse to support it. And
I do like how you gave Call of Duty or Activision a little bit more rope than you have EA or DICE. They put out one bad game, and you're already like swearing them off.
I'm about to turn 30. I've got a 2-year-old son. I've got a full-time job. My wife works nights. I don't have the luxury of being able to be patient with games anymore. If it doesn't deliver and the company doesn't want to, show that they're willing to continue to improve, I'm writing them off. 5 years ago, yeah, I had a full-time job, but my wife worked days too, and it was just the two of us, and we didn't even have the dog at that point. I had so much free time. I mean, outside of work, we'd hang out a little bit and do stuff together, but I still had a ton of time to play. So I had the luxury of being able to have patience with these game developers and with the overall games, the quality of the games I was playing. I don't have that luxury anymore. So my patience is extremely limited with the games that I purchase. And if that's a bad thing, it is what it is. I do the best I can with what is afforded to me for my free time.
Yeah, I get you. I was joking in that one live stream when you're talking about games. I was like, you have a very long ban list now.
Yes, I do.
It's like pretty fucking long. But
for me, BF4 isn't even the main problem I have with BF4. It's not the actuality of the game. It's just how the studio carried itself before and after.
Oh yeah, I mean,
before it was all like everything's great, everything's amazing, and you expect that, PR speak, marketing speak. But then to realize that they either didn't quite understand the actuality of their product, or they were just willing to completely bold-faced lie through it. And then a lot of their interactions with the public were really bad. A lot of their PR stuff was very much mishandled. I thought their focus and willingness to just try and bullshit their own community, it made me lose a lot of esteem for them, because for all the time that I've been a fan of DICE, I also need to understand that they've been losing staff and gaining staff ever since that first magical moment, basically, that would have made me go, okay, Battlefield is a thing that I actually really enjoy. Because I tell you one thing, it wasn't the original title, and it wasn't Battlefield 2, and it wasn't 2143 or 2142. None of these made me love DICE. And whatever that initial team was that made the game, that made me sit there and think, okay, now, I can enjoy this. This is appealing to me for a number of reasons, will have changed dramatically. And how internally they do business and who internally is important has all changed. So I can't stay giving a company credit for the efforts of people who more than likely don't even work there anymore. That's foolish of me as a consumer. So I'll sit and I'll wait. On Hardline and Battlefront, my policy is exactly the same. Prove to me that the game is worth buying, and I will buy it at a price that I'm willing to pay. That's it. I'll decide what that fucking price is.
Yeah. Did you see Ola in the chat? He asked a question regarding what you were just discussing.
Do you think they have improved in the past 3 to 6 months in that regard? Well, yeah, because all the lies they told have... It's hard to tell more. You know what I mean? They said they weren't going to do DLCs until they had it working, and that was just like pure shit. So they just moved on from that. And you know, it doesn't really matter what they say to people now, because the air of expectation is gone. People are just so grateful for even the slightest improvement within the actual game itself. I feel bad for them. Like, I feel bad for people who are playing that game and seeing even tiny improvements as a godsend thing, because I wonder what their suffering has been like for the last 6 months. It's like, how hard up were you playing BF4 to think that one less instance of something shit happening is somehow praiseworthy? It's like, there's so many good games out there that people can play. Just play them. Like, if you want to play BF4, that's fine, but it's hard for me anyway to kind of marry it as a concept in my head with enjoyment.
Yeah. I think that's actually probably a good point to call it a night. I mean, we've been at this for almost 2 hours now. Every week we do this, it's just getting progressively longer and longer. Tony, you do have a good point. We should end it on a good note.
Yes, we should. We shouldn't end in a fight with Battlefield.
Okay, if you want to end it on a good note, Dragon Age Inquisition and this War of Mine are fucking fantastic games, and everybody should play them.
Tony, what the hell? I haven't seen really anything yet from... Oh, what the hell? What the hell? Jess, did you write that in Skype?
Right, what?
I don't know. I heard a bunch of typing. And I got a
No, I didn't.
notification.
That's
Okay,
a
I'm
chat.
sorry. I got really confused. I'm like, why is there a notification on Skype, but nothing's showing up in here? I don't know. Anyway, Dragon Age looks really good. Like, I don't even know what the fuck it was. I was on Reddit. Look at that. Did you go buy that today?
No, I got it when I got Far Cry, but I haven't opened it yet.
Oh, man. I saw
unboxing.
a video today that I shared with Jess, and it was just like one clip from the game. I don't know how to explain it, but it was really fucked up and yet really hilarious at the same time. It was I don't know if he's the main character or not. Jess, help me out here with this video. You remember
The Iron Bull.
the Iron Bull? Thank you. And this guy walks in. And he's like, "Hey, I can do you a favor if you know what I mean." The other guy's like, Iron Bull's like, "All right." And then cutscene, it shows the Iron Bull laying down fucking naked on a bed, and the guy's like, "So what do you want me to do for you?" And then like random characters walk in, they're like, "Oh my god, what is going on here?" It was like, it was just this weird fucking thing for like 2 minutes, but it was really hilarious. I was like,
It was the romance option for if you were in a relationship with Iron Bull.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that happened.
it was random. It was really strange, but I was like, that's pretty funny. I want to play this game now. It looks good. Not just, the naked part, but if you're into that thing.
It's a fun game. It's built in Frostbite 3 as well. And it's like, when you see like some of the smaller details that they do with the game, like it gives me a lot of hope for what Frostbite 3 can actually be.
Yeah.
Outside of an FPS shooter engine.
Ooh, that's right. Reven's got a good point. We could talk about DayZ.
Nope.
And a good note, they added vehicles in the experimental build today. Jesus Christ, Tony.
If you want a raging torrent of negativity stemming from me, then yeah, let's talk about DayZ.
No, I've got a lot to say about DayZ too. That I'm going to next week. I think we're gonna try and make room for our topics, because I've had something I wanted to talk about on DayZ on the docket since day one
For
this series, and I really would like to get to it while most of the thoughts are still fresh in my head. You know what? That's a good enough point. At this point, I think we're just gonna try and force conversation, and that's never good. So we will end it there. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. We will be back here again, same time next week. The start time is always tried to aim to be 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday nights. It's 5 p.m. Pacific Time or 1 a.m. GMT. But, you know, it all depends on when my wife gets home, and then if OBS wants to be a stupid pain in my ass or not, as to whether or not we get started right on time at 8 p.m. But we try our best. Or, you know, in case one of our members is playing a raid in Destiny. That always has an impact on things.
Right?
What can I say? I'm an MVP.
Oh.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Thank you, guys. Also, this is going to be going up on my channel either Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
Wednesday.
It's going to be one of those days. This is a tough week, short week with the holidays coming up and everything. Short work week, trying to get as much stuff as I can get done as possible before we wrap up for the long weekend. And I got a lot of other things to finish too as well. But this will be posted on the channel, and then it'll end up on Dawnbreaker. More importantly, on the forums for Dawnbreaker Gaming. Jess, if you could throw a link up to the forums, please, I'd appreciate it, to the podcast subforum. You can find, we will have an episode 4 thread started. That's where you guys can go ahead.
I already started it.
Thank you much.
Oh.
If you guys go ahead, check out the forums. If you haven't signed up yet, go ahead and create an account. That way you can add your voice to the forums. Feel free to add anything to the forums you want, and in any of them. But in this topic specifically, you guys can add any topics you want us to discuss in next week's episode of the Game Speak. It can be anything to do in the video game industry. Anything. No topics are offhands by any means. That's it. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. We appreciate you all coming out to hang out for the night. And we will catch you guys next week. Have a good night. Everyone say goodbye.
See ya. I'm gonna go eat some food, nerds.
You're fat, not me.
Food. Oh, sounds so good.
All right. I hit stop stream.